There's a massive trade update that was released today, and Koby Altman has to take advantage of it, as news has come out that Clint Capela is currently being tossed around in trade talks by the Atlanta Hawks, and the Cleveland Cavaliers can put together an interesting package. So we all know Koby Altman wasn't going to be in a position to make a ton of different splashes and big moves out there in free agency once Donovan Mitchell, once the key players were back in place, Evan Mobley's extension was all put to rest. Once all that was sorted, the Cavs kind of had their roster set going into this season, but there's still a couple holes that we saw Barrett's ugly head come playoff time, come stretches during last season, and they kind of still need to be filled, and probably aren't going to be just filled by a coaching change and minor internal development. So Clint Capela fills one of those big holes at the center position, the backup center spot. So we're going to break down how the Cleveland Cavaliers can get him, what that move would look like, and why it just makes too much sense for Cleveland to make one of these moves happen. But before we dive into any of this breakdown, we have an important announcement, as over 88% of you guys that are watching the vids, and appreciate all the support that we can get on these recent videos, but 88% of you haven't hit the subscribe button just yet. So make sure you guys hit that sub button if you don't want to miss a single thing regarding this Cleveland Cavaliers team as we inch closer and closer into media day and this start of the NBA season. But what's going on here? What's the report? Why are we talking about Clint Capela? Well, news has come out today, essentially from Ian Begley, who's a pretty big insider in New York Knicks talks, but essentially has come out and said that the Atlanta Hawks have had trade conversations about Clint Capela, specifically right now with the New York Knicks, who are another squad that are in need at the center position, and they're in a bigger need right now in regards to making one of these moves happen for Clint Capela, or making one of these moves happen for a center, as news came out today that Mitchell Robinson is going to be out for the first few months of the season. So essentially the Knicks are currently actively trying to go after the Hawks for trade talks, but this is a situation where I think the Cleveland Cavaliers should step in here. And no, it's not just to be petty against the New York Knicks after all of the Donovan Mitchell sort of trade rumors, and a video I'll probably make tomorrow about Josh Hart already trying to recruit, well, not already, they've been trying to recruit Donovan Mitchell for years at this point, but trying to recruit him once again, but not just to be petty to the New York Knicks. I genuinely think it makes sense to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they have an interesting sort of package to put together. But before we dive into that package, what is Clint Capela as a basketball player? Well, he's a starter for the Atlanta Hawks, still with some injuries and things like that, but still averaged 12 points per game, 11 rebounds, and still blocks, in terms of 1.5 blocks per night. So is a legitimate NBA center out there, and it's probably at the point in his career where he'd be most best utilized coming off the bench and providing some value behind a Jarrett Allen, behind, Evan Mobley, that sort of front court. And that would be a really just lethal tandem out there in the front court for the Cleveland Cavaliers this season if Clint Capela were added to the roster. And I keep kind of bringing up the hole at the center position, and it is definitely there. I mean, if we're looking at our front court depth for the Cleveland Cavaliers this season, right, you have Jarrett Allen, who is obviously, one of the best centers in the NBA. There's no arguing that. There's not a talent gap at the center spot, because you can even slide Evan Mobley out there and then things are good. But obviously Evan Mobley's more naturally put at the 4. Makes sense. He can be played at the 5. Some people argue he should be at the 5, but it seems like what the Cavs have structured, have planned, they want Mobley at the 4, Jarrett Allen at the 5. They kept that all together. But then outside of that, we're looking at a Dean Wade sliding up to the center spot, which I don't think is something that's going to happen. I don't expect Tristan Thompson to actually be in the rotation except for very, very desperate times this season, but we'll see if that ends up being the case. But outside of, your Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley, and Dean Wade, who's more of a 4, there is not a lot of depth. Unless you're counting JT Thor as a guy that can somehow slide up to that center position, there's not a lot of players that are out there right now that are going to be able to play the backup center for this Cleveland Cavaliers team going into next year. So what can the Cavaliers offer to the Atlanta Hawks that could intrigue a potential deal to go down? Well, this is throwing out hypothetical trade packages always gets people fired up, but I cooked together something on the trade machine right now to just see what we could get, see what deals could go down. And obviously, in any trade machine package from Cavs fans, they're going out there and add Georges Niang to it because, again, you're letting go of that extra year, the 2 years of salary, that $8 million. I don't think a lot of people want to see him in the rotation get a ton of minutes next year, right? Karis LeVert would be a tough piece to lose because he does have those high of highs, but he also has those low of lows, and the Cavs are loaded out there on the wing position here now at this point. So to make the salaries work, to get off of Georges Niang's salary, and Ty Jerome, I think, is an experiment a lot of people are pretty well done with here now at this point, right? Get off of those types of guys. Maybe the Hawks take a flyer there, and then the Cavs pick up Clint Capela, they pick up their center and have one of the most dominant front courts out there in the entire NBA. And then you also have Koby, who is a guy that really didn't get a lot of run, didn't get a lot of opportunity for the Atlanta Hawks last year. There was a lot of chatter about him not getting utilized correctly by the team, getting utilized. So you take a flyer on a guy if the Hawks are willing to throw him in and get something going there. But the Hawks get a score, they get some guys, they open up the floor for Onyeka Okongwu and probably try to redeem. Caris LeVert is the perfect kind of tanking team or mid-level team player, right? To add to your squad, to get you some buckets on the wing. So I think this is a deal. Again, I'm not holding tight to this specific trade package, but getting Clint Capela to the Cleveland Cavaliers just makes all too much sense as a move for this Cavs team. And he's an expiring contract, so you can take, obviously you have him on the team, things work out, you can just pay him, right? You can pay him. We can look at the Cavs sort of contract situation stuff right now. It's tiny your text and things like that, but essentially your core guys are going to be, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Jarrett Allen, and then Evan Mobley's contract, which is going to kick in a couple seasons. But getting off the Niang contract gives you some more flexibility for the future. And if you bring back Clint Capela, it could be an interesting piece. And again, these centers, their contracts seem to be going down as they get older and the league starts to change a little bit. But as a backup, right, we saw Jonas Valanciunas get a $10 million per year season. Then if that's the market for a guy like Clint Capela, Jonas Valanciunas, then frankly, that is a contract that I think a lot of Cavs fans would be interested in keeping around for the future of this team. But it opens up the wing as well for Tyson, who's first round pick. You kind of want to see him get some run, and you might say, the Cavs are in win now mode, right? They want some veteran stuff, but again, the starting unit, whatever Kenny Atkinson decides in terms of who's going to be playing where, what's going to happen with these squads. But Darius Garland's going to be starting. Donovan Mitchell's going to start, right? Yeah, Max Strus probably going to start. Isaac Okoro could potentially get in there, right? But having Caris LeVert, having Niang out there at the 3-4 positions, you can open things up a little bit there. Open things up for the Rook. Open things up for Sam Merrill to come and slide in, get some 3-point shots up. I'm intrigued to see what this Cavs roster would look like with Clint Capela out there at the center, and then more open for the young wings. I think a lot of Cavs fans want to see have that opportunity to blossom, to have that opportunity to grow for this squad going into next season. So that's kind of a move. That's kind of projection I wouldn't like to see again. The Cavs, the Atlanta Hawks, they're a team that are facilitating trade talks. I think the Knicks lost all their draft capital. They lost a lot of their guys. I don't think they're going to be able to make a trade happen that works for Clint Capela unless they're going to get off of one of their top players. I don't think they're going to trade Josh Hart. They're not going to trade anyone in that Nova core. So while the talks are happening with the New York Knicks, I don't foresee that deal ended up going down. And if the Hawks are trying to get off of Clint Capela, the Cavs should jump in and try to make one of these moves happen. And if it keeps the Knicks, a team that the Cavs are going to be fighting with, former playoff rival, all those types of stuff, lots of rivalries with trying to steal Donovan Mitchell, all of those things, make it happen. Koby, come out there, make it happen. Just made 4 signings. Let's get something rolling there on that front. But let me know what you guys think about all this in the comment section down below. You guys best think this far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Again, made it this far, folks. If you made it this far, let me bring it up again. 88% of you haven't hit the subscribe button. So make sure you guys hit that sub button. It means the world to me. Anyways, you guys best. I'm signing out. Cheers.